Is there a prompt? There are 6 emergency exits.
Hello, everybody. This is Ron, your captain speaking. We are currently 30,000 feet in the air, and we haven't even left the airport. We just lit the joint. Just kidding, a little pilot humor there. We like to have fun. Our destination today is Casablanca, Morocco. So everyone, sit back, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff. We will be arriving in 6 hours.
What's going on, 7-Footers gang? Jarod and Jenna back here for part 2 of our NBA season preview, Eastern and Western Conference breakdown. Now, last episode was the Eastern Conference, so now we got to kick things off in the West. Jarod, are you ready to dive into the monster that is the Western Conference?
Yeah. The Western Conference has got so many questions, and I'm just so... There's so much going on. So much. We shall see. But yeah, let's dive into it.
I am so excited. Now, we aren't starting out on a LeBron James worthy note, but we'll get there. Don't you all worry, because you know how this little tier system goes that we are following. Now, we're going to talk about a couple teams that are lottery bound, which means, you know, we're talking about a few dumpsters.
Yeah, and you know, let's look at, you know, because in this section, I've got 4 teams, so I kind of want to flip the order that we have. Let's talk about the teams, the one team that I think I'm pretty confident is lottery bound, and that's Sacramento Kings. Like, I just don't know what's going on there. Yes, De'Aaron Fox, but after De'Aaron Fox, okay, we got Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes. They lost Bogdan. You know, Sacramento to me. And again,
Hassan Whiteside.
I mean, ownership, coaching, like this is what I look at, like, and I just do not. I don't know, man. No. I'm out.
Here's the thing.
I'm out on Sacramento.
Yeah, definitely lottery bound, definite dumpster fire. But if anything, the pressure falls on De'Aaron Fox. Why? Anytime you secure a bag, there comes the actual part of it that you need to do the work. He needs to prove to us that he is this max extension Sacramento Kings lifer, I guess, per se, for the next few years anyway.
Are you saying that you don't think he's worth the max extension?
I do think that he is worth the money. However, now he really needs to come out and be consistent and be good.
Show it. Yeah, show it.
And he needs to show it. Yeah. I mean, he's a young, promising talent. I find no issue with his game at this level anyway. Obviously, there's improvement needed. But, hey, I mean, if he wants to be the face of the Sacramento Kings and really take them into or through a rebuild that – I don't know when it started or if it has started or
still rebuilding. Look, here's the interesting thing about Sacramento that I haven't even mentioned Marvin Bagley III yet, and it's like,
and Bagley, you know, that's my dude.
That's your guy, but look, like they got Tyrese Halliburton this year in the draft. To me, I just do not see it. Again, Bagley's talented. What's up with the development? By the way, we saw that Harry Giles III, who used to be on this roster, now in Portland, showed out in a little preseason game against the Kings, against his former team. Shouts to Harry Giles. What is Luke Walton's vision? Where are they going? I will say this. Jahmi'us Ramsey was drafted by this team in the second round. Had a chance to talk to him prior to the draft. Nice kid. Like I hope. Look, there are nice guys on this roster. I hope that, again, as an organization, they figure out culturally, where do we want to go? What is our plan? What are we doing? Is Luke Walton the guy to lead us there? And, you know, are we going to get the most out of these guys? Because remember, it wasn't too long ago we were looking at, Sacramento. They could potentially, sneak into that, playoff spot. And there are guys who can play here. Clearly guys can play ball on this roster. Ill-fitting parts, I just don't know. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, this is a hard one for me because you have Bagley, but there's so many questions or unknown things with him because when he's balling out,
And he was hurt,
but
he's
then
injured.
he got
yeah,
hurt. So it's like, uh, it, major question marks. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, we don't need to spend a lot of time on these dudes. No offense. No offense. Where do you want to land next in this lottery?
Let's talk about Oklahoma City Thunder because they're another interesting team, and clearly we know Sam Presti has acquired a billion D draft picks, moving everybody away. They still have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They got Al Horford, Darius Baisley. They still have, they have some guys. They're George Hill. They have some guys who can play.
Justin
Jackson. Nice guys. Steven Adams got traded. Look, they're clearly rebuilding in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Right.
Dennis Schroeder's out. Chris Paul.
Right. They're clearly rebuilding. The question is, and they have a new head coach, by the way, and Mark Daniel. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The question is he? Are they going to be rebuilding like, all right, we're going to be sorry while we rebuild and be like, bottom of the league, or are they going to compete, win some games they shouldn't, and start creeping their way up into that like 10 spot? I don't think so. I think they're lottery bound. As good as I think Shai is, and as much as I like him, that team lost a lot, and it is clear that Sam's building for the future. They have some pieces, but again, Lou Dortz, he was a revelation in the postseason with he scored 30-something points in a game, was D'ing up James Harden. I think you're going to see some of these guys get traded and moved around, again, to just make more space, excuse me, and continue to free up spots because Sam, I think, wants to make another move or two and trade. Because again, Oklahoma City is a team, like we've mentioned some of these others in the past. They are not a free agent destination hub. You have to draft, develop, and then trade for other established stars who are under contract. That's their model. And Sam Presti is drafted well. He's picked up a lot of pieces. And I said this before, and I'll say it here again. We're lauding him right now for all of the, oh my God, Sam Presti's a genius. All these assets. He's got a collection of picks. Okay, that's all well and good. They have to turn into something, though, right? Like, you have to use those picks, and they have to become something. So the test isn't going to be all the capital he's amassed. Okay, cool, you got that. I want to see what you do with all that capital. What do you turn that haul of picks into? Do you draft like you did in the past with Durant, Westbrook, and Harden, amazing, and Ibaka, amazing players, and develop them, or do you trade some of them to also acquire an up-and-coming star who's already going to be locked up under contract? So that's going to be where I think we grade out Sam Presti and the Oklahoma City Thunder on this, but I think they're headed to the lottery.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, if anything, now that what's good that comes out of the so many trades that Sam Presti made in the offseason, which were insane, but now we're going to get to see kind of Shai in like a more expanded offensive role.
Shai's the guy.
Without Chris Paul.
Shai's the guy.
So he is the guy. So I'm excited to see his development. But other than that, I mean, OKC is really just lottery. Lottery. Okay. Let's talk about. You want to go Timberwolves or you want to go Grizzlies?
See, so Timberwolves and Grizzlies, I think. Both of those teams are kind of like, they could be lottery bound, but
that gray area.
They could sneak into that 10 seed. Look, let's go with the Timberwolves. The reason why I have them here is because I don't know what to expect from Karl Anthony Towns. We talked about it last week. Not only did he lose his mother to COVID, he lost 6 other family members to COVID-19. Yeah. Basketball, we read in a piece that was in The Athletic, basketball used to be a sanctuary and a refuge, and he even said, like, I don't see it as that anymore. Like, it's not that. So I don't know what he's going to look like. And if he is not the cat that his ability would suggest itself to be, they're not going to be good. They're just not, because they don't have enough talent there. And this is no disrespect to D'Angelo Russell and first round draft pick Anthony Edwards, but that is not good enough to get them to the next level. And so you got some dogs barking in the background, huh? A little.
I do, guys. This is COVID-19 work from home at its finest. I may not have kids or anything, but you got the dogs going wild. Somebody must be here. I don't know. We've been recording for so long. I don't even know what the outside of this room looks like. But yeah, that is the real podcasting from home.
That's the dynamic. So Minnesota, I don't know, right? Like if. And the thing is, because I don't know how he's going to react to this, right? Like, it could be something where he just comes out like a man possessed and is just like out of control and crushes, right?
Right.
But it could also be, it takes him a while to figure out what he wants to do, and I'm not really sure, and and everything in between. So I just don't know. I'm curious to see Anthony Edwards, their first round draft pick, what that looks like. They're Jarrett Culver on that team, like they drafted last year. Does he make improvements in his game? Again, we talked about D'Angelo Russell. They have Josh Okogie. Ricky Rubio's back in Minnesota. Look, lottery. This is unless Cat is that dude, lottery.
Yes, I agree with you. I love the addition of Ricky Rubio. But so taking COVID-19 and the unfortunate, sad happenings of what went down with Kat's family this year, I would say 100% this is the season and the time for Kat to step up.
No doubt.
And I mean that from a leadership standpoint, and I mean that on the floor as well, because he's due for that. We talked about this even when Jimmy Butler was still there, and that wasn't working out. So, but however, it just happens that this has been an extremely challenging year that is bigger than basketball for him. So, and for anyone. So, again, that's going to be a wild card, rightfully so.
Yep.
So, yeah, we're going to have to see on that one. But again, yeah, I don't think this is going to be their season per se.
No, I don't think so.
All right, let's talk about the teams that have a better chance.
Well, we have one more. The Grizzlies. The Grizzlies.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. It was so irrelevant. I didn't even realize. Oh my God.
Well, the
How
Grizzlies.
did I do that
Well,
one?
the Grizzlies.
Kidding. They got some young talent. Okay, Ja Morant. Let's be real about this one now. He's gonna come back, and I think this is gonna be also a breakout development year for Ja Morant.
So the Grizzlies, remember, were before the league shut down with COVID-19. They were in that 8 seed. They're in that 8 spot in the playoff race. And so the question is, can they do that again? Was that a mirage? On a soft early schedule. This podcast, we love Jarod Jackson Jr. and Ja Morant, right? Those are our guys. Shouts to Triple J. He was on this pod a few episodes ago. Check that out.
Sorry, Triple J. Didn't mean to diss your team, honey.
Let's just look at, first of all, part of the issue for them is going to be Jaren is recovering from meniscus surgery, so he will not be ready to start the season. Look, and that's a problem because he is a main part of this team's offense and defense. So not having him to start the season is going to hurt. And then there's the other pieces in the development. Does Ja Morant make that step up that we talked about? Does Brandon Clark, who's a rookie last year, does he also improve his game? Justice Winslow is also going to be out to start the season. No Justice Winslow, no Jarod Jackson Jr. It's a lot of your offense. A lot. And it's going to put a heavy burden on Ja Morant. You still have Jonas Valanciunas who can score inside and who can stretch for a bit. You have Kyle Anderson. There's still pieces here. In an improved Western Conference, it's going to take Ja and Triple J to really elevate their games. We said it. I said it to Jarod when he's on the pod. He's got to rebound more for his size and foul less, right? Like Like he's just too
Oh
big.
yeah,
He's just too big. He's got
6'11".
right. He's got to average.
6'11".
He's got to
You
average
gotta.
way more rebounds, and he's got to foul less. All right, like that. That's just huge. He's already. He can. He shoots 39. Almost. He asked us, "Should I be in a 3-point contest next year? What do you guys think?" Like he can shoot it from 3. We know that. So he needs to continue
He has a good range
to develop that. To develop that part. Continue to develop his offensive game. But he's already a huge prototype. Looking forward, future big in this game, which we love to see. But the rebounds have got to come up, and he's got to continue to make leaps forward on defense. John Morant's jump shots got to get more consistent. He does that, they'll be a better squad. So I think really their hopes in terms of are they going to make the playoffs are really going to rely on how good Triple J and Ja do they make a leap this year. If they make another leap, where we're talking about, they might make All-Star. Like if we're talking about All-Star for them, yes, playoffs, no doubt. If we're not talking about All-Star for them, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
And yeah, and again, Triple J coming off injury too. I mean, they're gonna need the help of Clark. They're going to need Ja Morant to show out and really have that type of leap. Now, again, we always talk about this though. When these players, when we hype them up, we gas them up, like what happened with Jason Tatum. You know what I mean? He had more of a quiet kind of second season out the gate. So I'm interested to see Morant. I mean, again, I've called him a mini Jimmy Butler when it comes to his attitude, grit, and confidence. So completely different player than Jason Tatum. So, not to throw out any comparisons over there for all y'all haters up in my mentions. But, yeah, you never know. It could go any way. And again, it's a different world now, too. I mean, these players are going to come back to challenges as well that players who went deep into the bubble already may, not go through that. So we have to think about those things, too. Grizzlies are a young team, so we'll see.
We'll see.
We shall see. All right, let's move on to teams, again, like I said prior, before I forgot, the Grizzlies that have a better chance at locking in a better seed and fighting for playoff spots. Let's kick it off with the Houston Rockets because there's a lot of new faces in Houston. And by new faces, I mean Boogie Cousins off injury. I mean John Wall off an Achilles. I mean, this is going to be interesting. We have PJ Tucker, who is an OG now in Houston. So, and he seemed a little
not
perturbed.
Pleased. Yeah. Not pleased.
When somebody asked him if he was, going to get an extension or stay in Houston, he didn't really have an optimistic kind of reply, gesture, anything. There was nothing good about his answer. I can't recall exactly what it was, but it was just like, I don't know what he even said.
He essentially next questioned it, right? Like, look.
Yes.
I've talked, and I make fun of Tillman Fertitta, Rockets owner. I call him broke boy on here. Like, I don't know what the Rockets' culture, mission, and vision is right now. Daryl Morey gone, Mike D'Antoni gone. We know all that, right? Is a whole new regime here. First year head coach Steven Silas, who, by all accounts, good dude. And it's just unfortunate that, this is what he's got to deal with, in his first year. But, them's the breaks sometimes in the NBA. I liked what I saw from John Wall in brief limited action in his first preseason game. The big question here, why it's hard to predict Houston, I don't know if James Harden's going to be on this team all season. He may. And if he is, because he's James Harden, they're good enough with Wall and with, PJ and what they have to make the playoffs. If he's not on this team, well, then I don't know. I just don't know. You still have Eric Gordon here. You got Daniel House. He of the, I was inviting people into my room during the bubble in Orlando when I wasn't supposed to. Look,
has a wife and kids.
This whole squad is just, and they have Christian Wood, a young player who people are high on. They're hoping they can do something with. What that something is, I don't know. Again, the culture had been forever, this is about James Harden and what we want to do here. But the people who tried their best to make it work are no longer here. So what's it going to be? And if he wants out, and he, being James Harden, was late showing up to camp, and it's just all suggesting to me, an environment that does not seem conducive to winning basketball. So if Harden is no longer on this team, they could easily be lottery bound. Easy be lottery bound. If he does stay for the whole season, it could still be a weird situation, but he's a good enough player that, he can elevate those guys that are there. And Wall and Cousins want to play well for obvious reasons, right? They want to kind of regain some pecking order in the hierarchy of the league. So, there's enough talent on the team, but again, this Harden situation is just messy, and I don't know what the direction is that Tillman Fertitta is taking this franchise in beyond I'm a broke boy and I'm trying to save money. So that's my Rockets take.
Dead. Well, I'm just going to go into my bag of expertise here and just fill y'all in if you haven't heard the news that James Harden was late to training camp because he was out at Lil Baby's birthday party, partying up in the club with no mask. No mask. In Vegas. Wow. I don't even know what to say here. While PJ, who could have possibly been perturbed that he was suiting up for a training camp with the rookies and the new additions in Wall and Boogie, and you're at Lil Baby's birthday party. I think he gifted him with a $150,000 watch. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what I read somewhere.
Yeah, gave him a watch, cash. He had I think a Louis bag or some kind of designer bag. Look, again,
if anything, that says to me, I'm gonna do this because I'm gonna send a sign.
Oh,
I'm gonna let y'all know.
Clearly, he doesn't want to be there, right? I mean, yes, he did show up, but he is not doing the things necessary that is saying I'm bought in. And look, in order for teams,
and I'm the leader of this team.
Yes. In order for teams to be successful, there has to be buy-in, and people have to believe, and there has to be leadership. Those are all void right now in Houston. I don't see any of that. So again, disaster. Moving on. Major
disaster. Again, we'll see about him and keep you guys posted on that because trade destinations shall be interesting. Okay, let's talk about the Pelicans because everybody's saying that this is finally the first full year of Zion. This is it. People are dubbing this year as literally the it year for him. And I mean, hey,
it's so crazy. It's year 2. So like, what are we even talking about here? It's only his second year in the league. This is like the year. It's like
oh yeah, it's what I like to call the sophomore sizzle reel. Like you just everything's coming out hot out the gate, and then, we'll see. Who knows? You don't know. But we have notable additions in Steven Adams. I mean, Bledsoe. The list goes on. And then obviously notable departures in Drew Holiday, Moore, Favors. So with that being said, do you think the Pelicans got better or the Pelicans...
Yes. So the Pelicans clearly have a plan, right? EVP David Griffin and GM Trajan Langdon have a plan. And
you like Griffin.
I
Griffin's
do.
your guy.
I like Griff. Griff's my guy. I like Trajan Langdon as well. And they also have a new head coach in Stan Van Gundy. This team will, without question, be better on the defensive end. They were atrocious last season on defense. They will be much better on defense with Stan in charge. The other thing that I'm hearing from, and it's like, again, first day of school, everybody's happy and things are going great. I'm hearing Zion is in tremendous shape and is ready to ball out is what I'm hearing. Again, when I see it is when I'll be like, all right, it's there. They have Brandon Ingram, who was an all-star last year, who was phenomenal and who's coming into his own.
Had a great year last year in terms of improvement.
I think losing Drew's going to hurt them because, look, and this is Bled's a downgrade. Like, he's just not as good as Drew Holiday. I don't know how long Bled will be there, but that's just what that is. They have JJ Redick, of course, Lonzo Ball. They've got some talent and some young pieces. But the key is Zion, right? Like, in the sense that if he is healthy and if he's doing some things, that's going to be a tough team to play because, God, I mean, he's just so explosive. I mean, he's so big and so strong. It's so funny in his pregame and in one of his preseason media availabilities, he said, "Man, you mentioned they have Steven Adams. I thought I was strong. Steven Adams is strong, right?" And it's like that's a hell of a front court, right? With Adams and Zion, like imagine getting screened by those guys. Like, dear God, like that's gonna hurt. like
Bad.
I ain't trying to run into none of those screens. Like
That's a brick wall.
Literally. Like I want no parts of either of them. But it'll be interesting to see. I think having Stan will be helpful for this team. Does Alonzo get more consistent in terms of his shooting? You already know he's a good defender, good passer. If that becomes a little bit better, if his shooting becomes a little more consistent, that could be a key. And we know, look, Bled can get you into your offensive sets. He's an excellent defender. He's aggressive. Like this is gonna be a fun team. New Orleans is gonna be a fun squad to watch this year. And yeah, they can hover around that 10 spot, that 10-9 spot to making that play-in tournament.
I mean, then you have those key pieces too, like JJ Redick, Josh Hart when he's feeling hot. I mean, there's a lot of potential here, and I'm hoping to see a leap from Lonzo Ball. I think it's much needed. Not that he, had a terrible season, but
you want to,
the number 1 pick in the draft. Let's see you show out.
I'm going to say this. This is a big year for Lonzo Ball because if he doesn't make some significant improvements, and again, mainly it's just the consistency of shooting and then his free throw percentage, he could find himself no longer an NBA starter in this league or out of this league quickly. Like it happens that fast in the NBA. So, this will be a big year for him.
Hey, I mean, I couldn't agree more, and that's why I say he needs a leap. So let's move on here because we need to go to the Valley and
the
talk
Valley
about
of the Sun.
That is right. We have to talk about the key addition in the point guard, Chris Paul. You guys know that is what we call him on this podcast, and that is what he will always be called. Anyway, just had to get that out. And, other additions that came over with him, not from the same team, but key additions. Jones, Jay Crowder, Langston Galloway, more. I mean, they got some nice pieces to join Devin Booker.
And DeAndre Ayton.
And DeAndre Ayton, who is going to, as you said on the last pod when we talked about the Suns, who's going to benefit so much more so than Devin Booker from the addition of Chris Paul and just his ability to teach and have that veteran presence. So talk to me about the Suns. I mean, obviously they got better.
Of course.
No?
I mean, anytime Chris Paul, the greatest point guard of his generation for sure. I mean, when you look at
doesn't
this,
age either.
When you look at this guy's advanced stats, I mean, Chris Paul is excellent. Like he's so good. Like, and I get it. Like the casual fans like he doesn't win any rings, and it's like guys, like you know how hard it is to win a championship. Like it is really difficult. Like go through the history of great players in this league who have never won titles. Like titles aren't
a lot of chips need to fall into place.
A lot of things have to go right for you, and you need some luck along the way, right? Like, I mean, it's hard, but Chris is elite. One of the greatest players we've ever seen in the history of this game, all timer. He's gonna help this roster so much. One of the great competitors. I like what I see roster wise from Phoenix. I think he's going to help unlock Ayton, as I mentioned. Booker's going to do well, not having to worry about handling the ball so much. It's going to be nice. The question again, and he's reunited Chris Paul is with Monty Williams, who he coached him when he was on the New Orleans Hornets early in his career. And so I'm excited to see what Phoenix does. I think just because of how Chris is. Chris is a dog, man. Like he just competes his ass off, and he's gonna instill that into this team, similar to how he did with that Oklahoma City team last season. And I can see Phoenix being again in that mix for that 9, maybe even 8. Like who knows, right? Like because Devin Booker is excellent, and A lot of people don't
Ooh.
realize it because people won't watch a lot of Phoenix Suns games, but Book is so good. And now, again, having Chris Paul on that team is going to do so much for them. And again, barring these teams stays healthy and these guys really buy in, it's, I like what can happen in Phoenix. So let's look out for the Suns as a threat to be for sure in that playoff tournament space.
100%. I mean, can you imagine just what, as we mentioned in the last podcast, Chris Paul and Devin Booker have already been training together, already been up in the gym together. Can you imagine truly, and I'm not trying to make this a sappy narrative like I make everything else, but for real, what Chris Paul is feeding Devin Booker in terms of knowledge at the point guard position.
So much.
I mean, the tapes, the documentary that we could possibly see out of this. I mean, I just want to know what he's telling him and how much it's going to benefit Devin Booker in the point guard position specifically. And real quick, Mikal Bridges, any thoughts? He's going to have to really step up.
I like Bridges, actually. He's, again, another one who will benefit from having Chris in the fold. Because, look, it isn't just about Chris knows where everybody else is supposed to be and what they're supposed to be doing, right? He's going to teach them angles off of pick and roll, like how to, shade off and go out to the corner for this and where to hedge here, where to pop out. Like, there's so much institutional knowledge in terms of not the Phoenix Suns, but in terms of the game of basketball that is in his computer brain that these guys are just going to be like, it's like a master class. They're going to be sitting there going, oh my God, like, and he'll stop him.
It reminds me of a LeBron James
100%
kind of level
100%
of seeing the floor.
100%. And it's just through osmosis alone, these guys are going to be like, oh my God, like, he's going to raise their intelligence level. So it should be exciting in Phoenix.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to see it. And hey, I mean, I really think this is also a great opportunity for Devin Booker to get in more of the State Farm commercials. Obviously, it's a little awkward with the old ones, so I think this is really going to benefit Devin Booker even off the floor. So, we're going to be looking out for those. And as soon as it happens, I'm going to get up in there, watch that, laugh. They're always good. I love the ones where the bowling ball's crushing everything and Chris Paul comes in. So good. Anyway, there I go. We got to move on, though, because it's still not exciting, but we're still going to talk about it. The Spurs. I'm kidding. I love the Spurs and Pop. But, hey, did they go through some growing pains? But, yeah, exactly. We got to talk about it, though, because, my guy is there, DeJounte Murray. And then you have the great DeMar DeRozan, who recently fought off an intruder.
Yes.
That he found
it's not funny,
his
but
kids,
yeah.
his kid's playroom or something in his home. I mean, I'm sorry, what is it, like 6'10" DeMar coming after me? And I'd be
DeMar's
like, okay,
huge.
I'm gonna run the other way.
Yeah, he broke into the wrong house, whoever that intruder was.
Right? And apparently he's neighbors with Kylie Jenner, so I mean, he saved a lot of lives, damn it.
Shout out to DeMar. The Spurs,
for real though. Let's talk.
We knew the whole like playoff run was going to end for them, right? At some point, like it had to, right? Just because you're not that good forever, right? Like at some point you stop being good. There's nothing about this roster that is exciting to me, right? I just DeMar is what DeMar is. LaMarcus is what LaMarcus is. DeJounte Murray, has not made the improvements that I thought he was going to make. He's still young enough that it could happen. I just, as an organization or as a team, I don't know, because they're an excellent organization. I don't think their ceiling's very high, right? Like they can kind of, because of the institution and the culture of the Spurs, and because LaMarcus and DeMar are still borderline all-star level players, they're not going to be crappy. They're not going to be a lottery team, but I don't see them as being, any serious, real threat come playoff time, right? Like they're not that. Like I don't see that. Pop's pop. So this team is going to play hard. They're never going to they're not going to quit or be like a joke squad or anything. I just, they're just going to kind of hover around that a little bit above 500, like, which again, probably is going to have them somewhere between 8, 9, and 10, right? So they're going to be in the mix for the playoffs. But that's about it. There's nothing particularly exciting beyond that.
No, really, right there. I mean, the roster's like,
yeah, it's meh.
Right. I try to do my best doing that. So it is what it is. Yeah, and I mean, hey, let's soak up whatever years we have left of Greg Popovich.
Yeah, who knows when he's gonna stop doing this?
Exactly. So we shall see. We'll see if it gets hot in San Antonio, even though it's really hot there. But you know what I mean, on the court. So
I'm gonna go ahead and say no. It will not be hot in San Antonio.
Yeah. Try to give them some love. But let's move on to a more tight race here for who we predict are going to be locks in this race to the chip. Now, let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks, because I did talk about them earlier, but we weren't talking about that team because I messed up. So, yeah. Let's go back to everything I said earlier when I said that Luka Doncic had a stellar sophomore season. I mean, you can't really get any better than what the numbers that he was putting up and what he was doing, although the ceiling, it seems very endless for him, or high, as some would say. Porzingis, first full year off the ACL, looked good. Hopefully he can, only continue to improve and get stronger. And I like what I see out of the Mavericks. They're good. They're really good.
So Dallas is going to be such an interesting team. The big thing, they have Dwight Powell back. You got injured last season. He's back. Kristaps is going to start the year not ready yet. He's still dealing with an injury that he suffered last year. They have Josh Richardson, who's going to take Seth Curry's spot. Seth Curry, obviously, now with Philadelphia, so that was part of that trade deal. Look, this is all about Luka, right? And again, KP, when he comes back, Luka's already a preseason favorite to win league MVP. That's what people are looking at. And we saw this team compete their tails off against the Clippers, who, again, yes, we got all the jokes about them blowing the 3-1 lead, but the Clippers are really good at basketball. Okay, like they're excellent.
Yeah, come on now.
So for the Mavericks to be as competitive, and people say if KP didn't get hurt, might have even beaten the Clippers. I like Dallas a lot, and a lot of it, again, it's all going to hinge on Luka and how good he is, which is already excellent. If he is a legitimate MVP candidate this year, we're talking about this team as fighting for a top 3 seed. That's how good. If he's an MVP candidate, then that's where they're at. Now, Josh Richardson's going to be very important for them. Tim Hardaway Jr. Again, I talked about Kristaps coming back off the injury. He will not be ready to start the season. They're going to see him hopefully sometime in January. Dwight Powell. They have Willie Cauley-Stein. They have some nice pieces. They're Dorian Finney-Smith. They're like a wing player away. And Dallas is also a team that is making sure that their roster and their contracts are set up so that come next summer, 2021, they also, if he in fact is on the free agency market, they can go after Giannis Antetokounmpo as well. But I love Luka. The Luka KP 1-2 combo I think is nasty. Like, they're so good.
They complement each other so well too.
They really do. If again KP comes back and he's healthy, ready to go again, and if Luka is, as it's been predicted, the MVP favorite, if he still 3/4 of the way through the season is still in that MVP race, watch out for the Mavs.
100%. I mean, he had an MVP caliber-ish year last year, some would argue. So, I mean, sky's the limit for this kid. I can't wait to see the Mavs, though. They're really fun, more in part because Luka makes them way more fun to watch.
No doubt.
So, we shall see. And let's move to the Bay, because we have to talk about the triumphant return of Steph Curry and the Warriors. Sadly, Klay Thompson will not be there in the backcourt because he was coming off of a ACL, and now he just had successful surgery on the Achilles on the opposite leg, which, we talked about that in the last episode. Extremely unfortunate. Suffered that injury during a workout and we really haven't heard anything from him in terms of,
Well, I mean,
him speaking on social media and things like that. He's kind of, rightfully so.
Well, this is a lost season, right? I mean, he's not playing this season. So
Yeah.
that immediately changes the Warriors' fortunes, right? Like, yes, Steph Curry is the engine that makes that team go, but Klay Thompson is the elitist of elite shooters and an elite defender. He is an all-star. You no longer have that. So, this is going to be a challenging year. Does the return of Steph Curry mean finally the unlocking of Andrew Wiggins? If one preseason game is our test, ain't looking good for the unlocking of Andrew Wiggins because he was mostly non-existent. And that's really been the story of Andrew Wiggins' career thus far, right? Like these sort of flashes in the pan of like, oh, you see the reason why he was drafted number one, but there's all too many times where he's on the court and you don't even know he's there. And again, when you are a number one pick, more is required of you. And so they have James Wiseman, the number 2 pick, and Steve Kerr is really focusing on the defensive identity of this team right now with Draymond Green. They like what they have there defensively. Kelly Oubre is a nice pickup for them. Look, Steph is back, so the Warriors are going to be good because he's Steph Curry. Duh. I mean, is the 2-time MVP, the league's only unanimous MVP. He is that dude. He's an all NBA guard. Like, he's that guy. But they're not a title contender, right? Like this team does not have enough to be a title contender. And again, what you have to look at is where are they going to be in the pecking order? Are they going to be middling around that 5, 6, 7 range, right? In the playoff picture, and what does that mean? And again, if you're management, Bob Myers, the brain trust over there in Golden State, Steph's 32. You only have a few more years of peak Curry left, right? How do you want to engineer the roster so that you maximize peak Steph? And if you're keeping Draymond, peak Draymond, right? Because when Klay comes back, coming off ACL and the Achilles, he's not going to be Klay Thompson, right? Like, he's going to be some version of something, but not the elite defender like that right, that he once was, being able to run and chase as much as he did. So this team will be very different. A lot of it's going to be on how those other pieces develop. Again, can they unlock Wiggins or unlock him enough to make him a tantalizing trade piece so you move him and get something else in return, right? Someone more ready and willing, more ready, able to help this team compete for titles, because that's what Joe Lacob, the Warriors owner, wants. But in their current state, no, they will not. But for sure, a playoff lock.
Right, definitely. I think they're going to compete, and I think this is a unique opportunity under unfortunate circumstances that Steph Curry has a big window to really kind of take this team and take it in his own direction this season because of the absence of Klay.
Yeah.
It changes Steph Curry's game, honestly, if you really want to get technical.
Well, of course it does.
Because
of course it does.
It's going to force him.
Well, he's everyone forgets, like, they're the Splash Brothers, right? Like that backcourt's so lethal because both of them are elite shooters. Like, they may be the first and second greatest shooters of all time. Like, right? Like, and so, I mean, when you lose half of that, okay, well, that's a problem, right? Like, I don't have that same other elite level player next to me from a shooting standpoint. So, yeah, but, Steph's the system and all that, and his spirit, can he, again, infuse that into these other guys? And look, it's going to be some growing pains and some learning with Wiseman, the young guy, and with Steph getting reacclimated with people like Eric Paschall and like all these players who he didn't play a ton with last year because he got hurt, right? The only institutional knowledge that's there is really between him and Draymond right now, right? That's it. With the rest of those guys, it's not there. So it's going to take some time. But again, Steph is that good, and they have enough talent around that they should be a playoff team. So.
Right, and who knows? Let's see if Steph and Draymond can really wrangle in and unlock, as you said, Andrew Wiggins and Kelly Oubre Jr. So maybe they can have some valuable pieces to compete. But let's move on now because we have to move on to the Trailblazers. I love the Trailblazers. Dame Dollar, full believer. Y'all know how it goes up in here. CJ McCollum, obviously we got those pieces coming back and coming back with vengeance per usual. That's what the Blazers do. And again, another true underdog team. I mean, what seed do you think these guys are really going to fall under?
So for sure, a lock, a lock for the playoffs. I love the additions they picked up. Getting Covington, getting some more size in the wing, which they desperately need. You know, I always say this when I talk about the Trailblazers. What worries me about them is that their two best offensive players are small. And there's a tax you have to pay on that, particularly on the defensive end, right? Yes, I know they made the conference finals 2 seasons ago, but so much of that was just they hit a lucky part of the draw, right? Like it happened to work out well for them in that regard. But I do like the additions. Melo's going to be playing off the bench. I like that. Anthony Simons, like, is he someone that's going to develop? We already know who Dame and CJ are. We get it. Nurk is back and is healthy. What does that mean for them?
A huge
piece. Is Zach Collins gonna finally do more than just show potential? Right? So yes, if Nurk is playing like borderline all-star, if Zach Collins shows more than potential, if Dame and CJ are Dame and CJ, yeah, this team is really good. We're talking about a 4 seed. Maybe they're fighting for a 3. Who knows, right? Like, they're that good. But, there's still some ifs in there. And there's still some, again, I mentioned, and Rodney Hood coming off ACL. Like, there are questions to have around this squad, but they're going to go as far as Dame, CJ. And I'm going to put Nurk in there. And Nurk allows them to go.
And the thing is, the regular season too, but once they get into that postseason, that's when Dame turns it on, and it is just a different man, literally.
The other thing too, they did pick up Derrick Jones Jr. from Miami, another interesting young guy who could be something. And we talked about him before. We mentioned the Kings. Harry Giles also on their roster, right? Are they able to get something out of these young guys, right? Again, I haven't mentioned recently in this particular episode, a version of the pod, player development, right? You have some talented young guys on this roster. Can you, as an organization, develop them? Again, the Anthony Simons, the Gary Trent Jr.'s, Harry Giles, right? Like, what Nazir Little, what are you doing with these young guys? Can they be something? We shall see. Let's not forget Enes Kanter, a little bit of a homecoming as your backup big. So, Portland's going to be excellent.
Yeah, they are. Love the return in Enes Kanter. And before we wrap up the Blazers, I do have to mention, because you know me, I am a Carmelo Anthony stan forever. Your girl was smiling from ear to ear when President of Basketball Operations, Neil O'Shea, went on the Woj pod and said this about Carmelo Anthony, quote, "It is incalculable what Melo does here in our organization," end quote. That makes me so happy, Jarod, because that I was praying that this would be the year that it worked out.
You love you some Melo.
Went through. And then look what happened now.
You love you some Melo.
I just love it. You love to see it. It's a great story. Just had to mention that. Throw some love to my Melo. All right. Let's go to another one of my favorites. Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz. Because Donovan Mitchell, as you guys know, just secured a big bag. Big bag in Utah. Rightfully so. They have made him the face of the organization. He has put his heart on his sleeve with that organization throughout, and this is the return. But now all eyes are obviously going to be on him. And we finally have a healthy Bogdanovic and recovering from wrist surgery. So what do we think about Utah's chances in this playoff run?
So Utah, was involved in that epic first round series against the Denver Nuggets in the bubble
Yes.
at the end of last season. Look, it all starts with Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, right? Like, Rudy is a defensive player of the year, multiple time level player. Donovan Mitchell, do everything guard. We got Mike Conley on this squad. We mentioned having Bogdanovich back. That's going to be a huge help for them on the wing, because that's the area that for them that concerns me is the wing, right? Like, who's that wing player in a league where wings dominate? They need help on the wing, right? So having Bogdan back is big. It helps them with their floor spacing, which they desperately need. Look, Quinn's a good coach. They're gonna be competitive and right back in that mix as a solid playoff team. But in terms of they're not quite at that contender level, because they're just not quite there with that. There's just, I feel like, that one piece away, right? They need that other big time shot creator, and they just don't have it right now. But again, with Mitchell, with Joe Ingles, with Rudy, with Bogdan, they are Boyan, excuse me, they're gonna be fine. They have Derek Favors back, which whatever. They have Jordan Clarkson, off the bench. He's a little spark plug for them. But they're not quite in that echelon of actual contenders in the conference. Mm-hmm. But they're a solid playoff team, and they're also that team that you're like, if you get your playoff draw, you're like, shit, Utah, you don't want to play them. You're like, oh man, these guys.
Yeah, because they're gonna push you, they're gonna compete, and they're tough.
Yes,
they really are.
You don't want them.
We saw what Mitchell did in the bubble, and he elevated so many aspects of his game. Mm-hmm. He drew comparisons to Dwayne Wade.
Oh, I mean, he was excellent.
He really was. He competed, and I think that rivalry of sorts, that the narrative that was created between him and Jamal Murray, obviously friendly on court rivalry, but I think that fueled the both of them in ways. So I like what I'm seeing out of Donovan Mitchell. He needs to continue to improve.
Yeah, he continues to do that. Yeah, they're but they're just kind of that one piece away, that one wing piece away that they don't have right now.
Yep, agreed. All right, let's take a trip to LA, because we got to talk contenders. Real downright contenders to take the Western Conference. All right, let's kick things off with the reigning champs, the Los Angeles Lakers. Now we know that they made some major moves.
Why don't we do them last? Since we did the Heat last in the Eastern Conference, let's do the Lakers last.
True.
Let's do the Lakers last over here. Let's start let's start in LA with the Clippers.
Okay, yeah. Let's kick it off in LA here, because the Clippers have a lot of chemistry issues to work through this offseason as we saw things unfold. So, I mean, and there's also, new things within the NBA about teams getting fined for load managing their star players. So, is this going to affect the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard?
Well, look, I mean, the reality of this is that Kawhi, we talked about this, clearly there's a chronic injury that he has, and that is, in order for him to be his most effective in the postseason, which is when they need him to be, he's not playing back-to-back. He's just not doing it. And that's just how this is going to work. So whether or not and I think the way the league set it up was basically they don't want you sitting out national games, right? Because it's about the nationally televised games. So fine. The odds are the Clippers, and I haven't looked at the schedule yet, but they have back-to-backs like everybody else does. I don't imagine they're back-to-backs on national TV. So, simple. You sit out the one that's not on national TV. Right? It's very simple. That's all. The one that's not on national TV, you sit that one out. Right? And the one that is on TV, you play it. I mean, let's just make this easy. Look, for the Clippers, I love them getting Serge Ibaka. We know that Paul George just signed an extension there. It's going to keep him in LA for years to come. Look,
Serge Ibaka reuniting with Kawhi. They were quite close.
No doubt.
In Toronto.
No doubt. Ty Lue, now the head coach over there. Look, the reality is going to be for this Clippers team, because they are good enough. Let's not act silly and be like, 3-1 leads, whatever. Look, Clippers are damn good, okay? Have they, as a squad, learned and gelled more after blowing that 3-1 lead to Denver? Is Ty Lue able to incorporate certain things into the culture there so that people understand, the pecking order and how things work. And 3, whom is the leader of this team, right? Like,
Who is, really?
we talked
Who
about
is?
it, and, when teams come together, how it's very challenging, right? You know why it worked so well when Kawhi went to Toronto and they were able to win right away?
Mhm.
Yes, Kawhi was their best player, but Kyle Lowry was the leader of that team, right? The culture of Toronto was already established. So Kawhi just plugged right in and fit in, right? Good worker, good player,
You're
all
right.
that. But his personality, Kawhi is not the rah, I'm going to like that. That's just not, he's not like that. He's not built like that. He is more of a lead by example kind of guy, right? So, but sometimes you need a voice. So who is the voice? So the Clippers' success
Great
is going to
question.
come down to who can step up and be that person. Can Kawhi develop that skill? And is it someone who the players realize, okay, yeah, we're gonna follow that guy, and we're in lockstep. So the Clippers' ultimate success is going to be, I think, tied into things that don't really have that much to do with actual playing basketball, because they're excellent at playing basketball. I mean, there's no two ways about that. Really excellent at playing basketball. It's about the other things, right? That chemistry that was detailed so much in those athletic pieces, and the little fractures and fissures. Have they had their time to bond and heal up, right? Is Paul George now, in his comments about, I wanted Doc to do this with me and do that and all that, have the guys in the locker room been like, are they getting to a point where it's like, all right, Paul, like, are we together on this, or is this more of the same? That's going to be the telltale sign.
Right. Couldn't agree more. And chemistry is going to be interesting too, because there was a recent interview on Sirius XM. It was like NBA radio or whatever. And it was a Raptors analyst. And he was saying that it was Leo Rautins. And he was saying how the chemistry between Serge Ibaka's personality, there was a dramatic change, he said, when Kawhi came to Toronto. So maybe the reunion with Serge Ibaka is going to help Kawhi to kind of have more of a voice and more of a leadership role on that team. And the great part about Kawhi, though, in a weird way, is that, like, he doesn't want to be the leader.
Well, it's the thing about Kawhi is it's the vocal kind, right? Because look, not everybody's built that way. Not everyone's built to come in the locker room and rah, and that's just not right now. Can you learn to do that? Sure. And Kawhi's gonna have to learn to take on some of that, right? I think Serge being there will help him. Again, we talk about this all the time. So much of this for these teams at this level, it's not even about the basketball, right? Like I say this quote all the time, right? Isaiah Thomas, Detroit Pistons legend. The secret of basketball is it's not actually about basketball, right? Like at that highest level, it's those little intangible things. And when we're talking about teams that are trying to win titles, look, a big part of it's going to be who's COVID healthy and who's just regular healthy, right? That's going to be a big part of this. The teams that are able to stave off COVID and stay lockstep are gonna be miles ahead of everybody else. And a lot of that's going to come down to teams that have the proper leadership in place, where you have guys that like don't want to let their leader down, right? And I look back to, again, everybody talked about the Lou Williams thing, going to Magic City, the chicken wings, and all that. That would never happen on a LeBron James led team, right?
Absolutely not.
Anybody going to Magic City, like, nope, you ain't doing that, my guy.
Even in Miami.
Right.
Even in Miami, that wouldn't happen.
On the Heat, like, ain't nobody, no, because Jimmy Butler, that's not happening, right? Like, so, again, what are the cultures and leadership positions established within these organizations so that, you have, okay, now I'm not letting this guy down. Nope, we're here for one thing. This is about business. We're trying to win a champ. All right. That's the teams that are going to ultimately end up doing it. That's a big piece of what's there. So the Clippers are going to have to define whom and what that is.
Exactly. And we shall see, because again, they did the unthinkable last year, I feel like, in our opinion, and then everything just blew up. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see the chemistry and things like that. And like you said, they're good. They
They're
have
excellent.
great coaching,
Yeah.
great pieces.
They're excellent.
So interested to see what they did behind the scenes to make that work out. All right. We got to move on. We'll be back in LA, don't worry. Denver. Let's go to Denver. Okay? Because the Nuggets, some may call us crazy for having them as contenders, but
Why?
no.
They went to the conference finals.
They did go to the conference finals, but a lot of people, I feel like, forget about them. For real. I feel like people forget about the Denver Nuggets. It's a true statement.
The Denver Nuggets, so they're going all in on the fact that they believe that Michael Porter Jr. is ready to be that third star. That he's shown enough in the bubble seeding games and in the playoffs that he can be that good. As you know, on this podcast, we are big MPJ fans. You know, I mean, in terms of like basketball, like MPJ's profile tend to be players that I like. Tall, athletic guys who can shoot, right? Like I tend to like dudes like that, right? So, you know, is he ready to be that next step up? Look, and we talked about what his shortcomings are, which is defensively, right? He's going to have to continue to get better on that side of the floor and not be a liability out there. We know what he can do offensively. Can he also continue offensively to do it more within the team concept and not so much of it on the individual isolation concept, right? Okay. We know Jokic, Murray, we know what that is, right? One of the deadliest 1-2 combos in the league. Mm-hmm. The Jokic, preternatural passer, all NBA. I mean, now for Jamal Murray, it's going to be consistency, right? We saw what you did in the bubble.
Yes.
Can you do this for an entire regular season now? Because that's going to be the big piece of this, right? If he's able to do that, Denver's right back there. And now, we're waiting on the return of Gary Harris, from Will Barton and Gary Harris, excuse me. Will Barton was injured last year and didn't play, so he's ready to step back in the lineup. Can Gary Harris return to some of his form that he had last season? And we know Jeremy Grant's no longer there, right? So he went to Detroit. So again, this is where Michael Porter Jr. This is where he's stepping up, and Bol, who they signed to an actual guaranteed contract, right? So the pieces, right? It's like, okay, this is a conference finalist in the bubble. Are we sure this was like for real, or was this like bubble mirage, right? Like, right. And I think this is what we're gonna find out.
Exactly. There's a lot of questions. Things could take a different turn for them just because, again, just coming off of what you said, is Jamal Murray and Jokic enough, really, to take them over some of these teams that have collected major pieces in the offseason? They're going to have to put in my opinion, that effort and more that they did last season.
No doubt.
Into this season.
And again, I talked about it with Miami and the short off season, right? This is going to affect Denver too. Denver went to the conference finals, so they played late into the bubble, right? As so a lot of these teams that are we're talking about as contenders, they're going to have to fight off that because they all played for the most part late into the season. So it's going to be a challenge working through this. But again, you love the institutional knowledge that's there between Jokic and Murray, right? Those guys have been together now. This is going to be season number 5. So that's all good signs. Mike Malone, excellent coach. I love what the Nuggets are doing. So they're going to be right there in the mix.
Oh, love it. And watching Jamal, I mean, we've already boasted about him on this podcast so many times. Just seeing him and his development, and good guy. All right. Let's close things out with your NBA champions, reigning champs, Los Angeles Lakers, and you guys know that is a plethora of talent over there with LeBron James, who just signed a 2-year max extension with them, as well as Anthony Davis, who just got 5-year, and he collected a large bag, if I say so myself. And then obviously you guys know we have Marc Gasol, the acquisition in Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell. I mean, this team, they they didn't rest. Well, really didn't rest, and they had 71 days to do it. But in free agency, I mean, they acted as if they didn't win a championship. They went out and got even more pieces to complement their already championship roster. I mean, yes, they did get rid of Rondo, which hurts. But again, what you picked up, I mean, you think the Lakers won free agency for themselves?
I think that the roster is, in some ways, it's better than it was last year. I think that, I know everybody's jumping on the idea of, they got Dennis Schroeder, they got, and I love Schroeder, and Marc Gasol, okay. I mean, Mark wasn't great last year for Toronto, so I don't know how much of that's going to be relevant. Look, the big thing to me, Trez Harrell is kind of good for them, but defensively he's not what Dwight and JaVale were, right? So that's a step down. Danny Green is gone. Yes, you have Wes Matthews in his place. Maybe that's even, at best. The big thing for this squad to me is LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I mean, that's right. Like, as long as you have those two, right, you're a title contender, if not favorite, right? Like, so it's really about how those guys manage and how LeBron is able to do his thing, which is, galvanize his teammates and those around him to, make sure they are connected and ready when it comes postseason time to step up and do what is asked, right? Because for the most part, it's, LeBron and AD are going to be doing the bulk of the heavy lifting, right? That's just how it's going to go. Can guys like KCP continue to be knockdown shots? Kyle Kuzma, if he makes a leap forward, that's going to be huge for them. Oh my God, why is his name escaping me?
Schroeder?
No, Alex Caruso. Right? Like, can guys like that continue to knock down shots? Right? And if they do, they'll be fine. And if they don't, well, things will get a little dicier. But really, it to me, it is about Davis and LeBron. And, and if Anthony Davis is playing like he played last season, and if he's even better, again, all defense, it's a nightmare. I mean, that's just there's nothing you can do when you got nothing. Like, you're just all right. Like,
literally nothing.
There's nothing you can do, right? Because those guys are that good at basketball. So, I love what the Lakers did. They are right back in the mix. I see them again, conference finals at a minimum.
Same here. KCP, no secret that he showed out, especially in the postseason. Do you trust him enough to have that level of play throughout the regular season, or do you think that was a postseason KCP shining performance?
The Lakers may be slightly worse. Actually, no, it's not even true. I think they'll be good again in the regular season. I think postseason wise, LeBron trusts this crew, and he trusts KCP. And we talked about the leadership before and the void that was on the Clippers with that.
Mm-hmm.
When the best player on the team and the team leader and a guy like LeBron believes in you, for guys like KCP and when it's Trez Harrell, and that's all the difference in the world. That's all these guys need. Oh, the best player in the world believes in me? All right, I'm on it now. Like,
that's it. The high Alex Caruso must be riding.
That's what I'm saying. That's all they need. That's all they need. And LeBron does have that way of infusing that and breathing that into his guys. And the Lakers are going to be right there in the mix.
Oh yeah, so interesting to hear the Lakers, the other pieces on the Lakers talk about LeBron James, and they all have the same sort of kind of similar compliments and things to say about him in the way that he takes care of himself and his body. I can't remember which guy it was, but he said at one point in the bubble that he couldn't believe how much LeBron takes care of his mind and his body. 24/7, they say he's always working on it. And of course, to be LeBron James and, you know, at this age, perform this way, you have to be that way. But my God.
And that's the thing. That's the thing.
Working.
So those guys who came over to the Lakers, right? We talked about so much of this is going to be about which team navigates COVID the best and all that. Mm-hmm. Again, you think anybody in this team is going to go wild out and go to the club and do shit they're not supposed to do and potentially get COVID? Hell no, right? Mm-hmm. And again, and so much of that is because of LeBron James, right? Like, and if your team is fortunate enough to have people like that, I think for Dallas, Luka's that guy for the Mavericks, right? Like, if you have, who's that guy? We're not gonna. Oh, I can't let my guy down. Like, nope. We got this. We're here on a mission. We're trying to do X, Y, Z. And so, you know, again, the Lakers are going to be excellent. And again, as I said, minimum, I expect them to be back in the conference finals competing for a title.
Same here. Last question, just going off of the influence of LeBron James. He had tweeted recently, I think it was right before preseason, that his pick for who would have a breakout year or whatever would be Kyle Kuzma. Mm-hmm. So they're close. They're tight. He believes in Kuzma. My question to you is Kyle Kuzma going to end the NBA season on the Lakers roster?
Oh, you're saying is he can get traded? Well, let's put it like this. If there is a better player who can help the Lakers win a title immediately, yes, they'll move him. They'll move him for someone who can help right now. For sure.
Because they have LeBron for 2 more years, right. So they need right now.
For sure. But who is that? I don't know who that is, right? Like I don't know who that player is right now, who they're like, all right, yeah, well, for sure, for that guy. But again, let's say they do keep Kuzma, that whole LeBron believing in him thing, that's what I'm talking about. And if he's competing defensively, which he was already starting to do last year, and you saw it in the playoffs especially, because the offense is never the issue for Kuzma, right? He's got belief and confidence on that end of the floor. If he's competing defensively, man, and again, they're bought in there, right? Like there's a belief they have, and they want it already. So it's like in LeBron we trust. Like they're feeling it there. They're feeling it there.
He said he said he believes he won 2 of the hardest championships. Wow. Coming back from 3-1 to the Warriors in 2016 and the bubble.
I mean, the 3-1 was no doubt. I mean, yeah. I mean, every championship is hard to win. There's no doubt about it. But among those might be 2 of the hardest. Yeah. Oh, Lord. Those of you not watching on video, Jenna is holding up that silly GQ LeBron photo yet again. Anyway, time for us to wrap, Jenna.
On such a lovely note. I mean, man, I'm just going to go watch videos of LeBron James now.
Oh, my God.
Guys, as always, thank you for hanging with us. And that is our official season preview. Now, guys, don't forget, it is split into 2 episodes. They are coming out very soon. Keep checking Spotify and
Apple Podcasts, all that, you know, yeah. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We're everywhere. You know where to find us on Twitter at 7footerspod, on Instagram at 7footerspodcast, at JS Hector, at Jenna Lemon Sully, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Bye, guys.
Spent a couple years out here with these raps, trying to have a plan that we made come true. Applied to some jobs, but I ain't hit back. I don't wanna trap, what's a man gonna do? Chevy told me come